Book of Heaven, Volume 6, Part 9. May 9th, 1905. The soul who is united to grace can do what death must do to her nature. Continuing in my usual state, it seemed to me that my adorable Jesus was coming out from within my interior, and with sweet and affable voice he was saying, "And why, my daughter, can the soul united to grace not do in advance everything that death must do to her nature? That is, making it die in advance, out of love for God, to everything that it shall have to die. But only those who dwell continuously with my grace come to have this blessed death, because by living with God, it is easier for them to die to everything that is fleeting. And as the soul lives with God and dies to all the rest, her very nature comes to anticipate the privileges that must enrich her at the resurrection. That is, she shall feel spiritualized, deified, and incorruptible, in addition to all the goods in which the soul shall take part, feeling herself the partaker in all the privileges of divine life. In addition to this, there is the distinction of glory that these souls shall have in heaven. They shall be so different from the others, as heaven is different from the earth." Having said this, he disappeared. May 12th, 1905. The means not to lose the love of Jesus. As I was in my usual state, my blessed Jesus came for just a little, and on seeing him, I don't know why, I said to him, "Lord, still this is something that lacerates my soul, the thought that I might lose your love." And he, "My daughter who told you this, in all things my paternal goodness has administered the means to help the creature, as long as these means would not be rejected. So the means not to lose my love is to hold my love and everything that regards me as if it were one's own. Can one lose all that is his? Certainly not. At the most, if he has no esteem for something that is his own, he shall not have the care to keep it in a safe place. But if he has no esteem for it, and does not keep it in a safe place, it is a sign that he does not love it, and therefore that object no longer contains the life of love, and cannot be numbered among his own things. But when one makes my love his own, he esteems it. He keeps it in a safe place. He always keeps an eye on it, in such a way that he cannot lose what is his, either in life or in death." May 15th, 1905. The path of virtue is easy. Continuing in my usual state, blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, they say that the path of virtue is difficult. False. It is difficult for one who does not move, because knowing neither the graces nor the consolations she would receive from God, nor the help for her to move, it seems difficult to her. And without moving, she feels all the weight of the journey. But for the one who moves, it is extremely easy, because the grace that inundates her fortifies her. The beauty of the virtues attracts her. The divine spouse of souls carries her cleaving to his arm, accompanying her along the journey. And the soul, instead of feeling the weight and the difficulty of moving, wants to hasten her way in order to reach more quickly the end of the path and of her very center. May 18th, 1905. Love deserves preference above everything. Continuing in my usual state, Blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, fear takes life away from love." Not only this, but also the very virtues that do not originate from love decrease the life of love in the soul. On the contrary, in all things, love deserves preference, because love makes everything easy, while the very virtues that do not originate from love are like many victims that end up in a slaughter. That is the destruction of the virtues themselves. May 20th, 1905. The Way of Suffering of Jesus. This morning I was thinking of when Blessed Jesus remained all dislocated on the cross, and I said to myself, "Ah, Lord, how tormented you must have been by suffering so atrocious, and how afflicted your soul must have been." At that moment, almost like a shadow, he came and told me, "My daughter, I did not occupy myself with my sufferings, but rather I occupied myself with the purpose of my pains. And since in my pains I could see the will of the Father fulfilled, I suffered, and in my very suffering I found the sweetest rest. In fact, doing the divine will contains this good. While one suffers, one finds the most beautiful rest. And if one enjoys, but this enjoyment is not wanted by God, in the very enjoyment one finds the most atrocious torment. Even more, the closer I would come to the end of the pains, yearning to fulfill the will of the Father in everything, the more relieved I would feel, and my rest would become more beautiful. Oh, how different is the way of souls! If they suffer or operate, their gaze is neither on the fruit that they can obtain, nor on the fulfillment of the divine will. Rather, they concentrate all of themselves on the thing that they are doing, and not seeing the goods that they can earn, or the sweet rest that the will of God brings. They live bothered and tormented, and they shun suffering and operating as much as they can, thinking of finding rest. But they remain more tormented than before. May 23rd, 1905. In order not to feel disturbance, the soul must found herself well in God. This morning I found myself outside of myself, and I felt someone in my arms, with his head leaning on my shoulder. I could not manage to see who he was, so I pulled him by force, saying to him, "Tell me at least who you are." And he, "I am the All." On hearing him say he was the All, I said, "And I am the Nothing." See, Lord, how right I am that this Nothing must remain united with the All. Otherwise it shall be like a handful of dust that the wind scatters away. In the meantime I saw someone who was doubtful and was saying, "How is it that for every slightest thing One feels so much disturbance. And I, through a light that came from blessed Jesus, said, in order not to feel disturbance, the soul must found herself well in God, tend to God with all of herself as though to one single point, and look at other things with indifferent eyes. But if she does otherwise, in everything she does, sees, or hears, she shall feel her soul invested with a disquiet, like those slow fevers that make the soul all worn out, disturbed, unable herself to make head or tail of anything. May 25th, 1905. The image of Jesus in the soul. As I was in my usual state, I could see blessed Jesus outside and inside my interior. If I saw him as a child outside, as a child I would see him inside. If I saw him crucified outside, I would see the same inside. I remained surprised, and he said to me, "My daughter, when my image is formed completely in the interior of the soul, whatever form I want to assume externally in order to look at myself, the same one is assumed by my image that I have formed inside the soul. What is the wonder then?" May 26, 1905. When the soul is all of Jesus, he feels her murmuring within his being. As I was outside of myself, I found myself with baby Jesus in my arms, and I said to him, "My pretty little one, I am all and always yours. Oh, please, do not permit anything to flow within me, be it even a shadow, that is not yours." And he, "My daughter, when the soul is all mine, I feel a continuous murmuring of her being within me. I feel this continuous murmuring of hers flow in my voice, in my heart, in my mind, in my hands, in my steps, and even in my blood. Oh, how sweet is this murmuring of hers in me! And as I feel it, I keep repeating, everything, everything, everything of this soul is mine. And I love you. I love you so much. And I seal the murmuring of my love in her. So just as I feel hers, the soul feels my murmuring in all of her being. Therefore, if the soul feels my murmuring flow in all of herself, it is a sign that the soul is all mine. May 29th, 1905. The one who rests in the arms of obedience receives all the divine colors. This morning, on coming, blessed Jesus threw himself into my arms, as if he wanted to rest. And he said to me, "So must the soul rest in the arms of obedience, like a child rests safely in the arms of his mother." And the one who rests in the arms of obedience receives all the divine colors, because when someone is truly sleeping, one can do to him whatever he wants. In the same way, when someone truly rests in the arms of obedience, it can be said that he is sleeping, and God can do to the soul whatever he wants. May 30th, 1905. The life of love of Jesus. Continuing in my usual state, I was saying, Lord, what do you want from me? Manifest your holy will to me. And he, my daughter, I want you all in me, so that I may find everything in you. Just as all creatures had life in my humanity, and I satisfied for all, in the same way, by being all in me, you shall make me find all creatures in you. That is to say, united with me, you shall make me find in you reparation for all, satisfaction, thanksgiving, praise, and everything that the creatures are obliged to give me. In addition to divine life and human life, love administered a third life to me that made all the lives of creatures germinate within my humanity. This is the life of love, that, while giving me life, gave me continuous death. It beat me and fortified me. It humiliated me and elevated me. It embittered me and sweetened me. It tormented me and gave me delights. What does this life of love not contain? Untiring and ever ready for everything. Everything can be found in it. Its life is ever new and eternal. Oh, how I wish to find this life of love in you, so as to have you always in me, and to find everything in you. June 2nd, 1905. Patience is the nourishment of perseverance. This morning on coming, Blessed Jesus told me, my daughter, patience is the nourishment of perseverance. In fact, patience keeps passions in their place and strengthens all virtues. And by receiving from patience the attitude of continuous life, the virtues do not feel the tiredness that inconstancy produces, that is so easy for the creature. So the soul does not lose heart if she is mortified or humiliated, because patience immediately administers to her the necessary nourishment, and forms in her a stronger and more stable bond of perseverance. Nor does she push herself too much if she is consoled and elevated, because as patience nourishes perseverance, she contains herself within moderation, without going out of its boundaries. In addition to this, since patience is nourishment, and as long as one nourishes himself, it can be said that he has life, that he is not dead. In the same way, as long as she has patience, the soul shall enjoy the life of perseverance. June 5th, 1905. Crosses are baptismal fonts. This morning on coming, Blessed Jesus told me, my daughter, crosses, mortifications, are as many baptismal fonts, and any kind of cross that is dipped in the thought of my passion loses half of its bitterness, and its weight decreases by half. And he disappeared like a flash. I remained there, doing certain adorations and reparations in my interior. And he came back again, adding, what is not my consolation in seeing redone in you what my humanity did many centuries ago? In fact, everything that I established for each soul to do was done in my humanity first, and if the soul corresponds to me, What I did for her she does again within herself. But if she does not, it remains done only in me, and I feel an inexpressible bitterness. June 23rd, 1905. The one who is united with the humanity of Jesus finds herself at the door of his divinity. Continuing in my usual state, I was thinking of how Jesus Christ died, and that in no way could he fear death, because being so united with the divinity, or rather transmuted into it, he was already safe, like someone in his own palace. But for the soul, oh, how different it is! While I was thinking of this and other nonsense, Blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, the one who is united with my humanity, already finds herself at the door of my divinity, because my humanity is mirror for the soul, from which the divinity is reflected in her. If one is in the reflections of this mirror, it is natural that all of her being be transmuted into love. Because, my daughter, everything that comes out of the creature, even the movements of her eyes, of her lips, the moving of her thoughts, and all the rest, everything should be love, and done out of love. And since my being is all love, wherever I find love, I absorb everything into myself, and the soul dwells safely in me, like someone in his own palace. So, what fear can the soul have, in her dying, of coming to me, if she is already in me?" July 3rd, 1905. Declarations of Jesus regarding the state of Luisa. Continuing in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and I found the Queen Mamma with baby Jesus in her arms, giving him her most sweet milk. On seeing that the baby was suckling milk from the breast of our mother, I removed him very gently from her breast, and I began to suckle myself. On seeing me doing this, both of them smiled at my foxiness, but they let me suckle. Then after this the Queen Mother told me, "Take your pretty little one and enjoy him." And I took him in my arms. In the meantime, noises of weapons could be heard from outside, and he said to me, "This government shall fall." And I, "When?" Touching the tip of his finger, he added, "Just another fingertip." And I, "Who knows how long this fingertip is for you?" But he did not pay any attention to me, and since I was not really interested in knowing, I said, "How I wish to know the will of God with regard to me." And he told me, "Do you have a piece of paper? For I myself shall write and declare my will about you." I did not have it, so I went to look for one and gave it to him. And the baby wrote, "I declare before heaven and earth that it is my will to have chosen her as victim. I declare that she made the donation of her soul and body to me. And since I am her absolute master, whenever I please, I share the pains of my passion with her. And in exchange, I have given her access to my divinity. I declare that by this access, she prays to me every day for sinners, continuously, and she draws a continuous flow of life for the good of sinners themselves. And he wrote many other things that I do not remember too well, and therefore I leave them out. On hearing this, I felt all confounded, and I said, Lord, forgive me if I render myself impertinent. I did not want to know this, that you have written. It is enough for me that you alone know it. What I would like to know is whether it is your will for my state to continue. And in my mind I continued, whether it is his will for the confessor to come to call me to obedience, or rather the time I spend with the confessor is my own fantasy. But I did not want to say it, fearing that I might be wanting to know too much, convincing myself that if one thing is his will, the other must be his will too. And baby Jesus continued to write, I declare that it is my will that you continue in this state, and that the confessor come to call you to obedience, as well as the time you spend with him. It is also my will for you to be caught by the fear that your state may not be my will. This fear and doubt purifies you of every slightest effect. The Queen Mother and Jesus blessed me. I kissed their hands, and I found myself inside myself. July 5th, 1905. The humanity of Jesus is music for the divinity. Continuing in my usual state, I was continuing my usual interior operations, and blessed Jesus on coming told me, My daughter, my humanity is music for the divinity, because all my operations formed many keys, that formed the most perfect and harmonious music, such as to amuse the divine hearing. And the soul who conforms to my same operations, interior and external, continues the music of my very humanity for the divinity. July 18th, 1905. The soul must not open her interior to others, only to the confessor. As I was in my usual state, blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, My daughter, when a confessor manifests to the souls his way of operating in their interior, he loses the drive to continue to operate. And the soul, knowing the purpose that the confessor has over her, shall become negligent and nervous in her operating. In the same way, if the soul manifests her interior to others, in revealing her secret, her drive shall evaporate, and she shall be left all weakened. And if this does not happen when she opens herself to the confessor, it is because the power of the sacrament keeps the steam, increases the strength, and places its seal upon it. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 6, Part 9. Fiat.